Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box Podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Maria.
My name's Ari.
And I'm Jordan.
And welcome to the May Roundtable.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Grooving out to this one today. We're all, I can see. Right, welcome to the May Roundtable, everybody. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. We all hope that you've had a cracking month since the last Roundtable and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who.
Related.
Oh. Nice one, Harry.
We were nearly all on time with that one.
We were nearly in sync, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a race. Oh.
That's what I thought. I thought Harry's racing.
No, it is a race, of course. Yeah, but I thought we were going to coincidentally all come in the same beat. But no, welcome aboard, everybody. It's been a minute since we last recorded, it feels like. I was saying before we started recording that the last time that we did the round table, I'm positive, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, just after 7 p.m. in the UK, it was dark outside. And we had the lights on and all that stuff. So, yeah, it feels like all of a sudden a snap of the fingers, and it's maybe British summertime clocks go in whatever direction, is something to do with that, perhaps. Who knows? But it's great to have you guys here. We are missing, who are we missing? Matt and Mark is not here this evening, and Adam is at some party somewhere. Yeah, the other half. You know how they do. So it is... Maria, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Gary. We're in May and we've had 2 bank holidays, which seem to be it seems like the wrong month for a bank holiday, but we have two bank holidays. It's been good because I'm having a short week this week, only working 2 days, so I can't complain.
Oh, crikey, that's nice. Only 2 days, lovely. Harry, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Gary. It's been a busy time for me. I've moved house, so that's been a huge ordeal. But, a good one, of course. There's nothing so simultaneously wonderful and simultaneously incredibly stressful. But, yeah, it is what it is. And aside from that, been enjoying new Doctor Who and... well, enjoying, is that the right word? I don't know, we'll see.
We'll see, yeah. I'm glad you sorted though, in your new pad, your new place. The new TARDIS.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Still need to get a wardrobe. There's still a bunch of paraphernalia hanging around my room. In fact, actually, this might be of interest. So I didn't realise, one, how many books I had, but also how many Doctor Who books I have. Half of the books I own are Doctor Who books, like stuff that I didn't even know that I had, like new series tie-ins and reprints that they did of old novels and loads of Target books, and I even have duplicates of books that I didn't realise I had. I have one Torchwood book twice, and I had no idea.
Oh wow!
So it's yeah, it's quite crazy. So I'd recommend having a look at your Doctor Who book collection, Doctor Who fans, because you never know what you might find in there.
This is very true. Yeah, that's a good ratio as well. 50-50 Doctor Who books. Talking of somebody and Doctor Who books from the classic era, somebody who does like the old the Target books and the old Virgin Adventure books from back in the day. It's Mr. Jordan Shortman. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah. You're all talking about, the thing is, I'm unemployed. I've become a lady of leisure. So I'm
another one.
All the time.
Seems that we have a podcast of upper class people just swanning around, not really working very much, going to parties. You're probably daytime drinking, aren't you? Definitely daytime drinking.
Might just jump in a glass or something.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm happy for you. Very good. And those of you that don't know, the reason why I mentioned the old books is because Jordan's done a ton of reviews of the old Virgin Adventure books on the blog. So, yeah.
There's some dialogue.
Yeah.
Fantastic ones. Some really good ones.
Yes, correct. Correctamondos, right. Before we crack on with this month's recording of the old Roundtable, just a quick gentle reminder to make sure that you are following the Big Blue Box wherever you get your podcasts. Just do a search for us, or head over to the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, just so you don't miss an episode when they go out every week and every month with this lot, when we chat Doctor Who and all the things, and all the articles and reviews from this lot as well. Actually, in the last fortnight, we've had all of you three put stuff out on the blog, which is fantastic. So yeah, go and check out these guys' work. Always very, very good stuff. And we're on the socials too, Twitter mainly, and a little bit of Facebook. There are links on the website. Go and check those out. We chat Doctor Who on those things throughout the week, so get involved over there. And we also have a very cool free Discord server. There's a link on the website. Hop in there. We've got loads of cool chat at the moment around season 1 and all of that stuff. There's some great fan theories and conspiracies and all that stuff going on as well. So it's all good stuff. So go and check that out. So the theme of this month is obviously the new series or season of Doctor Who, and it's actually serendipitously, I think that's a word, a good time to do the roundtable because we're exactly halfway through the series, which sounds crazy. It still feels like only last week we were watching Space Babies. So 8 episodes in total, 4 down, 4 to go. So it's a good time to have a bit of a midway chinwag and chew the fat on that. So on the regular weekly podcast, Adam and I have already reviewed the first 2, and we'll be reviewing the next 2. So Boom and 73 Yards on Friday, actually, and then putting that episode straight out. So especially the first 2 episodes, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts. So what we'll do is we'll talk about each episode for a few minutes, and then we'll do some wider chat around what you guys think of some of the cool ideas that have been kicking around with certain characters that have popped up, who certain people might be, who Ruby might be, who her mum might be, who Mrs. Flood might be, who the whole thing is with Mrs. Twist and all that stuff, which is all good stuff. So who wants to go? Let's talk about Space Babies. So the first 2 episodes, if you've checked out any Doctor Who other content creators, any other blogs, podcasts, whatever, you'll probably know that I think those 2, the opening 2 episodes, were potentially the most divisive, I would say, out of the 4 that we've had so far. So let's open up with Space Babies. What did you guys think to, first of all, that as an episode, because it felt relatively isolated on its own, like a standalone-ish kind of story, but also to kick off a brand new era and a brand new season of Doctor Who. Did that meet your guys' expectations, or were you feeling a little bit meh? There's probably better to come. So Jordan, let's go to you first. What did you reckon? Space Babes.
I thought it was all right. I must admit, my thing with that one was I'd had a brilliant day on the day. So not only did we have the Northern Lights, which you never have down the south. Because I listened to the one that you and Adam did. He said, and then he was wide awake then after he'd seen it, and that was what I'd just gone to bed, and my sister was like, "Oh my god, you need to come out! They're out! We can see them." And by that point, I was wide awake. So I was like, right, I'll watch the first one. And then that Saturday was Portsmouth Comic Con. So I then met Sylvester McCoy, Sophie Aldred, and Paul McGann.
Oh, wow.
So I had a great day watching it. So I was in quite a good mood. It was fine. I've always had a problem with season or series openers as a thing, because you can't really be too plot heavy, because you're not going to keep viewers if it's thingy that it needs to be explored later on. At the same time, I've always kind of thought that some of them can be quite fluffy, and that's really what it was. I mean, it did feel very season 24, Sylvester McCoy, season 24. You can imagine this wedged between Paradise Towers and Delta and the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fine. I don't quite know what else to say apart from it was fine. I think the worst bit was the mouths on the babies. I thought that looked awful. I don't think all the money in the world could have made that look good. But it looked very Uncanny Valley, and it was like, well, that's not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think that episode really was just showing how brilliant Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson were to straight out the gate. I think that's really what that one was. I really don't know how it was fine.
Sure, that's fair enough, dude. And I was going to ask you actually if there's anything that you didn't particularly like, but it looks like
I think the babies part of it was what I didn't. And towards the end, there was. I don't quite get how the bogeyman is supposed to be one of the babies, kind of thing. When earlier on, they say it's something to do with the education system or something in the computer. So it's like, oh, did the computer go mad? And I think that would have made more sense. The computer had gone mad. It's doing its own plan somewhere, and it's trying to keep all the babies and the woman at the top. And it's made this monster. I think that would have made more sense, not this weird baby then it's a baby.
Yes. I read you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read you.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So, same question to you, Maria. What did you think of Space Babies?
Unmute myself. Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Oh, I'm so glad you asked me about this, Gary. I really am. Right.
Here we go. Strap in.
Where do I start? And I don't know how anyone else feels, obviously, about it, but oh my gosh, I'm sorry. It was a terrible idea. I mean, Space Babies. I mean, just kind of think about that being pitched in the Tone meeting. They're having a production meeting. I've got this brilliant idea for babies in space that are running a space station that have a monster that's made out of snot and attack it with flamethrowers. I mean, you couldn't make it up, really, could you? Well, I mean, you could make it up because obviously RTD did. But I'm sorry. I mean, as an idea, I'm going to be honest, I hated it. I watched it on transmission on BBC One, and I was cooking at the same time, to be fair. So I was kind of like, I was listening and I was watching it, but I must admit, after about 20 minutes, I kind of switched off. I was clearing the table. I mean, I just found some of the dialogue was really twee and cringy. I mean, I know the babies are meant to be cute, and there were moments that I like, but if you think about it overall, I mean, you've got space farts and a literal bogey man creature. It's kind of, you couldn't make it up. I mean, it's like it's like bad fan fiction, and my frustration is because it's a season opener, you're thinking, they're trying to attract a new audience for Doctor Who. There's this audience that apparently is out there on Disney Plus and everywhere else. I mean, surely the idea should have been, let's put a really strong episode out there. Tell people exactly what Doctor Who is. It's an adventure where a man and his companion go out into space and have adventures. And I kind of understood the fun vibe that they wanted to bring to it. But, I mean, as an idea, I mean, to introduce it to a new audience, if somebody was watching that for the first time, I can't imagine what they would think. I'm not quite sure who, RTD was aiming this at, because I'm imagining small kids might love it, but what about your teenagers and your adults? I don't know. I mean, there were, obviously there was some political comment in there about refugees and stuff like that, but a lot of that kind of got buried in in the awfulness of the script. I don't know. I can't really say anything great about it. I didn't like it. I mean, I watched it twice for the sake of the review. I probably wouldn't go back to Space Babies for forever, really, if I'm honest.
Okay. Okay, then I was going to ask you what you didn't like, if there's anything you didn't like about it, but the reverse is obviously.
I could say more, but let Harry, say what he thinks as well. But
I'm not sure if this is going to be any better. Harry, over to you, dude. What do you think of Space Babies?
So picture this, right? I'm sat in my new pad, and I'm surrounded by all these Doctor Who books I didn't know that I had. And it's midnight, just saw the Northern Lights, poured myself some red wine. I was so looking forward to Doctor Who. And honestly, for the first 10 minutes, I would say, I absolutely fell in love with it. I was like, yeah, they're doing the thing again where, like, he's explaining the TARDIS and he's the last of the Time Lords and he's taking her back in time. But somehow it all felt fresh. Right? And like the way that Shooty and Millie were acting it was like so magnetic, and I was like, oh, this is pacey, this is fun, this is lighthearted, I love this is great, this is going to be an amazing season. And as soon as that first baby showed up in that mobile pram, I checked out. I totally checked out, and for the whole of the rest of the episode, I was bored and I was disinterested, and I thought, what the heck is this? And I echo a lot of the sentiments of Maria. Like, this is like the first episode of a reboot, for want of a better word, and you're trying to onboard new people, and it's going out prime time. Obviously it comes out in the iPlayer, but it's going out prime time just before Eurovision. People are perhaps watching Doctor Who that don't normally watch it, all those kind of things. There's loads of opportunities to get new people on board, and the fact that Russell thought that this would be a good idea, I just can't wrap my head around why he thought that, because it was a dreadful idea. There was no threat. There was nothing like essential that makes a good season opener, like the threat of Smith and Jones, or like the contemporary feel of Rose, that the very first episode that Russell ever wrote for Doctor Who. Like, to go from that to this. How have we regressed this badly? And the thing is, like, I mean, I could repeat a lot of things that people have already said, but I don't understand why Ruby would want to travel with the Doctor after this episode. If I saw all those babies milling around the place, I'd be like, this is weird. I don't want to do this. And then to top it all off, she gets covered in all their snot. Like, it's just dreadful writing, but she's like, oh, this is amazing, this is wonderful, I want to go on all these adventures with you. I'd be like, I've had such a bad day. No thanks, mate. It was it was dreadful, Gary. It was bad. In my humble opinion. I know that some people liked it. I mean, I guess it's an acquired taste for some, but a snot monster made out of babies' bogies, like, I mean, just saying that makes me feel embarrassed. It's the sort of episode that, like, if someone saw me watching it and they knew that Doctor Who was my favourite show, I'd feel very, like, just cringe and embarrassed. Like, it was, yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay.
Can I say something? Just because I think because I was thinking about this, and I feel like I have to get it off my chest. So if you just indulge me for a minute, what I was going back to when I kind of said about the tone of the episode, I think it's. I feel like this series, and I know we're going to talk about what we think of it so far. I feel like this series is more about the themes that Russell wants to kind of bring into the series, rather than kind of building a really strong kind of companion and Doctor relationship. I just get this sense that it's very kind of issue driven, this series, and I think starting off with Space Babies kind of made me feel really uncomfortable as an existing fan, because it didn't. If you think about what he did 20 years ago, and I know 20 years is a long time, But he kind of worked really hard with Rose and the Ninth Doctor to kind of establish their relationship. And I know this is a shorter series, but it just feels like he really went into that first episode kind of, he was talking about fun and everything, but I don't think the dynamic was there between Ruby and the Doctor. I didn't get all that, because they were very kind of bouncy. They were bouncing around the spaceship and kind of running around, and I didn't get a sense of who either of them were, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but it kind of, I didn't feel that their relationship was that established, because I just kind of felt uncomfortable, especially with the tone of Space Babies. I didn't think it was a strong start really to the series, and I think, as Harry was saying, if you're going to launch it as a reboot, it has to be a really strong first episode to draw people in, because I think the way he did it before with Rose and the Ninth Doctor was a lot stronger. This kind of didn't feel, I don't know, their relationship doesn't feel earned yet, if that kind of makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, and I think that was a shared view amongst a lot of Who fans at the time. Was it just felt a little bit like, I think I remember saying this on when Adam and I reviewed it, but it felt like the kind of episode that you would expect to see if there were to ever be sort of mid-series filler sort of stuff. It's that's the sort of episode you would expect to see if people ever complained about a mid-season dip, a couple of filler eps, that's the sort of thing you would normally complain about, as opposed to as you were saying, as an opener to a brand new, because it's a lot of firsts as well to deal with, and we were spoilt in a way with the 11th hour. I think that was a bit of a so the episode Rose, the 11th hour, I think those two were just amazing first eps for brand new eras with all those firsts. And with all these firsts, it kind of, I guess there's two ways to look at it, right? You've got your slow burn approach, where you kind of ease people into a new Doctor, new things and stuff, and then you just build on each episode until you get to the finale. So you have like this sort of ramp up from start to end. The other way to look at it is that you just go hard or you go home right from the jump. Like, you have to come in with a really strong episode to begin with. So there's probably two camps that you'd fall into with that. Russell's obviously in the former, where he's kind of just easing people in a little bit to the characters rather than just, I don't know. But you all make very good points, and I think as I said, these first two episodes were the most divisive, I feel, out of the four we've had so far. So let's keep the train going then. Let's go straight into the Devil's Cord. So, Jordan, your thoughts on this one?
I loved it up until the last about 10 minutes.
I'm happy to go first. I don't mind.
Jordan's going to kick us off, and then
okay.
We'll come to you.
I loved it up until about the last 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'll get into that as it goes on. I mean, Jinx Monsoon was fantastic. The Maestro, I think, was a brilliant villain. I'm not really sure you would call him a monster. They're a monster, I think they'd be more a villain. I mean, playing the Doctor Who theme tune on the piano and going into the theme tune on the piano was brilliant. Again, I thought Shooting Up and Millie Gibson were fantastic the whole way through it. I do feel a little bit sorry for sort of Millie Gibson, because she doesn't, these two episodes really get much to do. But what she's in, she's fine. The Beatles, I've got to be honest, never liked the Beatles, so it didn't bother me that they weren't in it that much. Cilla Black. Apart from, Northerners, who the hell thinks Cilla Black was a good singer? She was in it, that was fine. And it was, the whole, I mean, I loved the thing to the giggle, the laugh when Jinx soon comes out and does the laugh. The mention of Susan and all that, I like that. So the song at the end was not a good song anyway. And I think that's because Russell T Davies wrote it and not Marigold. But I think if they were going to do that, what they should have done was you had the Doctor kind of managed to make everybody find the music in their soul that are in the EMI studios. They then sing that song. That is what defeats the maestro. Because, again, there was another plot line I picked up on, was that the maestro eats music or something. Either the maestro or the Doctor says, I eat music, or they eat music. So why then does the Doctor have to find the lost chord and play music on these notes? Surely the maestro should be, eating them. And I thought, well, if you're going to do the song, then you could kind of do that, and then the maestro kind of gorges themselves into oblivion kind of thing. That's, it's too much, it's too much. You've defeated me kind of thing. I think that would have made a bit more sense. And I think then that would have made the whole bit where they're sort of dancing in the rain on the zebra crossing bit. I think that would have made that a brilliant final scene, and it's just a bit of a shame that it's been ruined by the song before it. But yes, so I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad the Beatles weren't in it that much, because I don't, you had Paul McCartney and whoever the other one was, John Lennon, who, I mean, George and Ringo. Ringo was probably there going, and then Thomas pulls into station, because he's off doing whatever the hell it is he's doing. Ringo was seen in this as Ringo was seen in real life. George, is it George Harrison? George someone? Was in one thing. And then, John Lennon's manically depressed through the whole thing. The only person who was in it was Paul McCartney, who had any character. But I think some of that might be that some of them are still alive. So maybe there was only a certain amount of stuff that they could do with them. And I feel quite bad. I know I've just criticised Cilla Black, and I'm sorry if anybody who's listening is a fan of Cilla Black. I feel quite sorry for the actress, because she put on Twitter that she'd actually filmed quite a few scenes that she was in, and it wasn't until she watched the broadcast version that she realised it had been cut. And I don't know if that's because the Disney people had gone, oh, well, we've heard of the Beatles, but we got no flipping idea who Cilla Black is. Who is that? And I don't know if that's maybe a victim of the Disney people sort of being involved a little bit more in it. If I'd have been Jinx Monsoon and I had read the script and I'd seen that Cilla Black was going to be in it, when I first came out of the piano at the beginning, I'd have been rather than going ta-da, I'd have gone, surprise, surprise, and come out of the piano and done something campy like that. But anyway, I'm waffling now. But I liked it up until the last 10 minutes.
I see, right. I thought you'd have been into the last 10 minutes with your background in theatre, and you didn't, right? But
I think it would have been better had it been a little bit earlier, I think. Right. I think it feels a little bit tacked on being at the end.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better served being sort of the thing that defeats Maestro. Gotcha. I certainly didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. It kind of lost me at that point.
I see. Gotcha. Poor Cilla Black. Hey, sorry, Cilla.
I am sorry.
Fond memories of back in the day, Blind Date, and
I mean, people were saying, why was she in it? And it's actually because the Beatles wrote a lot of her early songs.
That's true.
So that's obviously why she was there. But I mean, he might just. I did like the Doctor's reaction where he's like, "Come on, Cilla, don't let us down," and then he's like, "Cilla." It was funny. But yeah, I think that was the Americans were kind of like, we've got no idea who that is. Yeah. We know who the Beatles are, but we don't know who that is.
Yeah, a lot of them never experienced sort of late 80s, early 90s British television, unfortunately. Yeah. Blind Date.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Okay, so Jordan, kind of liking it for the most part, but yeah, the last bit, absolutely dreadful. Right, okay. Maria, then. The Devil's Chord, is this going to be any better than Space Babies for you?
Well, the good news is I thought it was actually much better in terms of threat, which I liked. I thought they had some good ideas, but I didn't think they were always kind of well executed. I mean, I love the bit at the beginning, and I don't know if you noticed, it was 1925, the same year as when the Doctor went back in time to visit the toy maker. Just noticed that. And I didn't realise, but the actor that played the music teacher is related to, is it Peter Lim, who did a lot of the music for Doctor Who way back. So that was interesting. I liked that bit at the beginning, actually. What I was thinking was, I thought this story actually needed more time, and I think there's something in what Jordan was saying. I think it needed a bit more time to breathe, because that bit at the beginning, he very quickly kind of played the devil's chord for the young boy, Harbinger. But I liked the bit, obviously, when he went, when Maestro came out of the piano. I mean, I'm a bit torn about Maestro. I mean, it was a strong performance, but I sometimes felt it was very one note, if that kind of makes sense. Because he said at one point, I am music. So I would have thought, if that was the case, he wouldn't have been shrieking so much, because it was a very kind of shrieky performance at times, and that kind of put me off. I mean, as a performance, I thought it was extraordinary, I suppose, is the only way I can put it. He certainly, they certainly put their all into the performance, so, can't really say anything about that. Love to see June Hudson in it as the old lady. She got killed, which was a real shame. I love the devastation when we saw the ruins of London. I thought that was very, very clever. There was one thing that really irritated me, though. It was all this winking at the camera at the time, the breaking of the fourth wall. I found that really distracting. I mean, I don't know if it's deliberate, it did strike me that maybe all of the series, in some respects, is not all of the series. The first couple of episodes have been kind of unconsciously bad, because it's some kind of bad fantasy environment. Obviously RTD's gone off in a fantasy direction, and it did kind of strike me, especially with all the, the musical number and all of that, whether it's meant to be consciously bad because things are all, things are off, the world environment is off, and so that might have been a reason that, because I didn't like the song at the end either. I thought it wasn't very good. I was a bit disappointed by having the Beatles in it, because they didn't really get enough screen time. And I actually, there was a good suggestion that somebody made online, which was maybe it would have made more sense to have somebody like the Rolling Stones rather than the Beatles, because they've got, their music would probably tie in much better with the themes of the episode, and I thought that was a really good idea. There's always a twist at the end. I didn't like that. I mean, it didn't make sense. I don't know if it was just an attempt at a musical episode, but it went on for too long. It was like 2 minutes long. I mean, if they were going to do it, they could have shortened it. I mean, it wasn't great. I mean, overall, though, as an episode, I thought it was much better than Space Babies. I've gone back and I would watch The Devil's Called again. Overall I liked it, but it just needed more time to breathe. I like the scene with the tuning fork. I thought that was good as well. So there were some good bits in it, but I think it just needed more. It felt like it needed a bit more revision in the script. It needed a bit more time to breathe. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it, okay. Well, that's something. In high contrast to Space Babies, it sounds like you and a few little annoyances, but you're kind of into that one a bit more, which is good. Okay, and Harry, me old chum, what do you think of this one?
I find it really difficult to sum up what I think about this episode because there's so much going off, and I feel like, there's a lot of potential, but the potential wasn't fulfilled on this one. And I don't want to, keep being negative, but honestly, it was very disappointing at midnight. Night it came out to watch both these episodes, and then at the end of it, have that song ringing in my head, and it's still ringing in my head right now. Even though I think it's dreadful, I cannot get it out of my head. I mean, Jinx Monsoon, I really liked their performance. I thought that they were a captivating screen presence. But once again, we have a villain like the Toy Maker, directly related to the Toy Maker, who is said to be all-powerful, but they're defeated like that really easily. And Jordan made a really good point of they feed off music, but it was this one specific chord that they really didn't like. It was just the writing felt really weak. And, as I've said before, John and Paul, everyone's favourite Beatles, happened to be in the building at the time to play the last chord and get rid of the maestro. And it was just, really convenient. And the thing about the song at the end is, in the Christmas special, when the Doctor and Ruby broke into song, it made sense because they were trying to distract the goblins, and that felt fun, and that felt, fine. But here, they literally just broke out into song at the end. And I don't care if there was a stage direction which said that the Toy Makers or the Maestros, playful whatever it was, that their energy was floating around, and that meant that everyone broke out into song. That wasn't clear watching the episode. So as far as, me and the average viewer can tell, they just break out into song for no reason. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I don't like them breaking the fourth wall for no reason. At least in Supernatural, when, they go very meta, at least it sort of makes sense because, Sam and Dean are in a universe where Supernatural's a TV show. It's not like, they've randomly just gone to the camera and, winked like the Doctor literally does in this episode. So... yeah, I don't want to hate it. I was really looking forward to this one, but it's not good. It's not good. It's very poor. Right. It's very poorly written.
Okay. So I think the vibe I'm getting from you three is that it is a bit better than Space Babies, for sure, but there are still things that are not quite hitting the mark still. We're a little, there's a few things that are a bit off there, which is fair enough. Because the first two were a bit, lots of Who fans had lots to say about those two especially. So we shall move on to episode 3, which is Boom. So moving away now from Russell T Davies for the first time in the series. The old mothball's back. He's back writing for Doctor Who, and this was the departure from, as I said, the RTD stuff. So, very unique story, this one. To be fair, they're all unique so far. You wouldn't see Space Babies pop up too often throughout Doctor Who, but you know what I mean in terms of, it's one of those things where pretty much the entire episode took place on one little spot, and it had very it wasn't sort of out on location doing stuff. It was a self-contained little thing. So an interesting story, this one, and Adam and myself are yet to review it, so I'm not going to say too much. We'll be talking about this and 73 Yards on this week's episode. It's going out on Friday, so I will take your guys' lead on this one. So, Harry, let's go back to you. What did you think of Boom?
I'm gutted, Gary. I was really hoping I'd get an early glimpse of what you thought of these episodes.
I will give you a little teaser. Yeah, I will do.
Cool.
Let's hear your thoughts first.
Cool. I like this one a lot more. It wasn't the greatest episode by any stretch. I thought that, the fact that the girl's dad died and she kind of just got over it really quickly made absolutely no sense. It didn't ring true. But then again, it's Doctor Who, what does ring true? But I mean, I don't remember distinctly feeling so on the edge of my seat watching an episode of Doctor Who for at least a good few years. The tension was palpable, and Shooty and Millie, as they've done throughout the series, they really sell it and they really go for it. And I think the way that Moffat wrote the Doctor in that situation, it really forced Shooty to step up, I think, because he was quite playful in the role up until this episode, and then he really had to, he was really grounded, because I think Shooty's quite a physical actor, but he couldn't move, and that really it forces you to kind of up your tempo in other areas, and I really appreciated that. I appreciated the way it was written and the way that Shooty performed it, and I just think it's a brilliant idea, taking away the one thing that the Doctor does the most, which is run around the place. And hearing the hum of the landmine and the beep beep, like that every single time I heard it, I just sweaty palms, really tense watch. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was great.
Cool. Okay, so a good review on that one then. Pretty sweet. Jordan, did this go boom for you?
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think this one was probably the strongest of the three. Some people were going absolutely mental over it on Twitter. Oh my God, it's the best thing since sliced bread. I wouldn't go that far. It felt very... I suppose I'm going to start with a criticism. If I have one criticism, it felt very much like Stephen Moffat had written this for Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman. And it was an idea they didn't want, it didn't fit, so he put it in the cupboard and forgot about it, and then swapped 12th Doctor for the 15th Doctor on the script, and because some of the stuff that he came out with felt very 12th Doctor-ish.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Sort of, everywhere's a beach eventually, sort of whatever. It felt like something Capaldi would say, and when she's trying to hand him the scroll thing that's made up of the person, she's like, thing. You can stop thinking that I'm going to throw it, I'm going to step down. Felt very much like sort of what Jenna Coleman as Clara would have done. But that's I said it was my one criticism. It's not really a criticism, because Shooty Gatler and Millie Gibson were so good at it that it didn't, it certainly didn't jar. It just felt like, it's very much like a lost 12th Doctor story. I think the ambulances were they kind of suffered from that wobbly Doctor Who monster kind of, especially at the end when all of them turn up, and all it was missing was the Master from, is it something like episode 5 of Frontier in Space? It's like, Doctor, I've brought some old friends to see you, and then the Daleks turn up on the cliff.
Yeah.
That's all that was missing, because they moved very Dalek-like. I watched this one with my sister, and when Ruby got shot, she went, they can't kill her off just yet. She went, that'd be very anticlimactic for the new companion. She's only in it for 3 episodes, and so that kind of did have a bit of a shock thing. It's like, you've actually, for once in certainly not the 13th Doctor's era, but there was actually stakes for a companion. I think she was the first companion that something like that happened to her since Bill.
Yes.
So
yep.
There did actually feel like there was some stakes, and it did feel like that landmine was going to go off at any minute. I really liked Mundy Flynn, and the actress is the actress who's playing the new companion in the next series. So it was interesting to sort of get to see her and her dynamic. I don't think she's playing that character, but the way she acts, it was interesting to see her acting with Shooty and Millie this early on. You kind of got that they did have quite a good chemistry together. And I loved the fact that the whole promo shot of him in the leather jacket looking up at the sky was just the build up to a gag. And then he's like, well, that's enough of that. Then let's get going, because and that felt very Peter Capaldi. It was sort of like, we'll let you have it. Right, well, I'm bored. Let's go. I've got short attention span. Let's, whatever. but I think that was the one where he got some Doctor moments, and I think that's what's been missing for him. Is he got some? I don't like faith, but that doesn't mean I don't need it. And the line, everywhere is a beach. Eventually, things that was they were very doctory moments, and I quite liked that for him.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. No, I agree with most of that, dude. Yeah, and it's interesting now that you mention it, just how much you could, in your mind's eye, see Capaldi doing that stuff with Jenna Coleman. Yeah. Okay, so good chat on that one, dude. Sounds like you like that.
Yeah.
For the most part, which is good. Maria, has the third episode picked up a bit for you now? Are you getting into this Doctor and this era a little bit more, or is this another disaster for you?
I have good news, Gary.
Oh.
So, to quote the Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff, boom! Shake the room! Boom, boom! I liked it. I really did.
Nice.
Now, I think Stephen Moffat coming back to the series was actually really refreshing. I mean, I didn't know, obviously, we talked about it before about what he would bring to the series. And I think his script actually brought my first Doctor moment. I really enjoyed Boom. So it gave me my first kind of real Doctor moment. When the Doctor is getting angry at Ruby because she's getting closer and closer to the landmine, and she's going to hand him the urn. And I just felt that moment was kind of really where you saw the difference between them. He's a thousands of years old Time Lord, and she's a fallible human. And I really like that moment. And what I remember is a quote from Stephen Moffat where he said, Doctor Who has to appeal to everyone. And I think this is what this episode did. As Jordan said, it wasn't perfect, but it was the kind of Doctor Who that I enjoyed. I really liked the characters. He kind of, in very broad shorthand, he kind of introduced those characters, and we kind of knew who they were really quickly, which I liked, and I didn't see that in the first. I didn't see that so much in the first two scripts from Russell. I loved that there was a lot of tension in the episode, because I think that's what's been missing in the series. So I love the way he kind of built on that, and I didn't see that moment coming where Ruby got shot. So, that was kind of like a gasp out moment, and you obviously were thinking all the time, how are they going to get out of this? So I did enjoy it, and yeah, it's got a schmaltzy ending, but it kind of made me feel good at the end of the episode. So it's my favourite of the series so far.
I see. Wow.
Can I say that?
Boom.
Can I say it's my favourite?
You can. Yeah, that's all good. So episode 3 then is Float in the Boat for you guys, which is a good thing. And I kind of, because I know you guys pretty well now, I thought that by the time we got to episode 3, you guys would be more into it now, which is cool. And before we chat about a couple of sort of series-wide things and Shooty and Millie specifically, let's round off with the final episode to bring us up to the mid-series. If we were in the US, we'd probably have a break right now, wouldn't we? We'd have 4 episodes and like 3 weeks off or something, and back in. So 73 yards then. An interesting story, this one. Probably the most mind-melting of all the 4 that we've had so far. Sorry, Harry. Yeah, the sneak peek opinion for Boom was that it was very, very good. I'm with you guys on most of that, which is very good. And a sneak peek for 73 yards. I found it was. I felt like we need more of this in Doctor Who. I feel that we've gotten away from. My wife said it very, very succinctly earlier. She said Doctor Who should be about scaring the kids a bit more and making it a bit more suspenseful and stuff like that. And I think she's right. I think sometimes we lose that sense of every now and then Doctor Who should be bloody scary, and I think this went some way towards achieving that in this episode, and it was very creepy and cool. So, and an absolutely brilliant performance from Millie Gibson in this one. So that's my 2 cents. Right, so let's go back to Maria. 73 yards. Was this the whole 9 yards for you, or no? Oh no.
I don't know. The only thing I can say is, Millie Gibson was great in it. She has to carry the episode on her own, and she did it really, really, really well. So I'm really impressed, with what she did in the episode. I did enjoy parts of it. I love the bit when we were in Wales and when we were in the pub. I think once it kind of left Wales, and I'm really disappointed that it did, and she kind of moved to London, it kind of lost something for me, especially the bit with the politician, is Ap William. I kind of felt that was kind of a different story that needed to be told. I think it kind of reminded me of Years and Years, and okay. And this is kind of where I can see in Russell's writing this series that he's repeating things that we've seen before. I'm getting echoes of stuff that he's done before, and this episode, I thought, the second half of it kind of really echoed that. I enjoyed the story. I thought it was extraordinary. I would say that. I don't know if I kind of could say that I enjoyed it, because I had lots of questions at the end of it. There was lots of gaps in it, and I know Russell said that he's never gonna tell what old Ruby was saying to the people and scared them away. And maybe he shouldn't, but I think from a story point of view, I would want to know what did Ruby say to Ap William to make him resign. It's probably not important, but I think as a viewer, I think there are certain questions about this story. How did Ruby become the lady at the end? Why was the Doctor unaffected? Where did he go? I think there's things like that kind of bug me about this. Okay, is it all down to a fairy influence? Was it some kind of malevolent influence? I don't know. It kind of left me with some questions, and I thought it was criminal that you've got somebody like Sian Phillips in it, who is in that little role is absolutely fantastic. I could listen to her intonation and the way she came across all day, and it was criminal that she kind of was so underused, really. I really felt the story should have stayed in Wales. It didn't make sense to me how Ruby could just kind of up sticks and just go home. Because the idea behind their relationship is that they mirror each other. I think her and the Doctor mirror each other quite well, because they're both looking for fun, and the Doctor talks about freedom and all that kind of stuff. But she kind of leaves after 2 days and goes back to London. It doesn't. There's bits of it that don't make sense to me as a story. The atmosphere of it and the tone of it was great, and I wouldn't want to watch it too often. I've watched it twice now, and I don't really want to kind of watch it again. I think it's not one that I would go back to, and I think that's my problem with this series. There's episodes that I just kind of think, would I actually want to go back and watch them again? They're not giving me that Doctor Who vibe that I want, and it's mainly Russell's episodes. But yeah, as I say, it was a fantastic story for Millie, and I can't fault her. She was fantastic, but it left me with a lot of questions, and I don't like it when things aren't answered for the viewer. You don't need to know everything, but I think there was things in there that I think should have been answered.
Gotcha. Right. So that was that was one thing that I picked up as well after looking at the some of the socials and stuff after that episode went out, was that it probably left a lot more questions up in the air than it did answer anything really. And I guess we have to accept that was probably intentional by Russell. Just to leave your brain just sort of spinning in different directions afterwards. And, there's something to be said. I don't agree with it all the time, but there is something to be said for not having to have an answer for absolutely every single thing that you see in an episode. Sometimes it's more fun, I guess, in a way, or whatever, for the audience to sort of have make their own mind up on what, So the thing that, is probably the biggest one for that is what the old woman version of Ruby said to people when they went next to her, what made them sort of freak out and do a runner and stuff. That's probably something that will be debated forevermore within Who fandom, which is kind of cool. So you kind of see it from, you don't need to answer every single little tiny thing, but at the same time, it does leave you thinking, well, what happened to the Doctor, when he stood in the fairy circle? Was it the fairy circle that made him disappear? Or was it something else that made him disappear? Or was it Ruby's, reaction to something that made him disappear? Did he purposely just do a runner? Was this a test? Was he testing Ruby, to see how she... I don't know. So... yeah, there's a lot of questions.
There has to be a kind of logic, I think, sometimes when you're following a story. And I think you're right. You don't need the answers to everything, but I think there's certain things that should be explained in that they make sense. I mean, I still don't get how Ruby went back in time to see her younger self. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, obviously, that scene at the end, actually, when old Ruby is dying and you've got the spirit in black. I mean, that scene in the bedroom is actually really, really creepy. I mean, that would freak me out. And I'm really glad that actually I did watch this episode. First of all, it was about 3:00 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. So I probably wouldn't recommend doing that again. But for an episode like this, but that scene was actually really creepy. But I still want to understand how she travelled back in time to kind of warn herself. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, yep, that's fair dues. Right, Harry, were you suitably creeped out by this episode, and were you satisfied with this one?
Yeah.
Or have we gone back to Dud City with this? What do you reckon?
Creeped out, yes. Satisfied? Not really. I mean, here's the thing. The idea is bone-chilling. I found it so scary. The idea of this just mysterious woman, who is she? You can't quite make her out. Always being 73 yards away from you. That's creepy as hell. And like the setting was freakish. The Welsh countryside setting. The fact that it opened without a title sequence, I really liked, and the music and just the atmosphere was perfect. But it's just the fact that it doesn't make any sense, because the thing is, right, like with something like Midnight, I feel like it was wholly intentional for you not to know what the monster looks like and what the monster is, and that felt constructed, that felt considered. This just feels like there's a bunch of unanswered questions that Russell didn't know how to answer, and he's just said, oh, leave it open to your interpretation, you can fill in the gaps. It's just like, well, I don't want to fill in the gaps. Like, I want to know what the woman was saying to people, or whether it, was it necessarily what she was saying? Maybe it was like some kind of supernatural power that she had. And like, who was Mad Jack? Was Mad Jack Roger Ap William? I mean, watching it a second time, like, he says that he was a son of Wales, so that kind of makes it clearer that he came from the fairy ring. But how does that work? Like logistically, like how does breaking the fairy ring mean that he comes out, and how does that mean that there's a weird time loop when we have an older Ruby, and like, you know, why does the older Ruby send herself back in time towards the end of her life 40 years after Mad Jack has been defeated, and where does the Doctor go? And, you know, this, and this, like, that doesn't make any sense, and I just don't care for it. I'd rather that, you know, we were told, like, just, you know, kind of how it all worked, because I genuinely don't know what happened. Like, I feel like there was a creepy idea. Like, Russell thought of this idea of this woman 73 yards away and thought, yes, I'm going to go with that. And it's a brilliant idea. It's a really good idea. But it just doesn't fulfill its potential, because I just feel like it's a very lazy script. And I don't think it's as considered as something, you know, like Midnight, or even Listen, which was written by Stephen Moffat, where it felt like it was very deliberate, that there was an element that we don't know. This just felt like stuff happened and none of it was explained. At least that's where I'm coming from with it. So
I see, gotcha. So you were in for the creepy vibe, but not so much the actual substance of the story. There wasn't much there because it was just a bunch of unanswered bits and bobs,
basically,
as opposed to like a very intentional. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, which is a shame, because this could have shaped up to be one of the scariest of all time. Quite honestly, like I was freaked the hell out, and watching that final bit, you know, in the hospital room that Maria mentioned, like, you know, watching that in my dark bedroom at like 1:45 in the morning, because I've just happened to be up at midnight when all of these episodes have gone out. Yeah, that wasn't fun. So scare factor. No. Yeah, it nails that.
Gotcha. And Jordan, what did you think to 73 yards?
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Like everybody else, I'm not entirely sure why I enjoyed it, because I didn't get it. Loved all that. You know, I love my horror, so I loved all the horror stuff. It felt very. If anybody's ever seen the film It Follows, it was very much like that, minus the sexual elements of It Follows. It was sort of like a sci-fi version of that. I think it should have just been they all stayed in the pub, and it was about those characters. And you've got this thing, a bit like Midnight, trying to get in, and, you know, they're like, oh, don't be so stupid. She's, you know, one by one they go out until there's only really Ruby left. I don't understand why Ncuti Gatwa wasn't in it, apart from the fact that he was off filming Sex Education. There doesn't really seem to be a reason, and Oscar Davis hasn't given us a reason, bar the fact that he wasn't around to film it. I think, yeah, Harry's right. That Roger, whatever he is supposed to be this mad Jack that gets, when she reads the scroll, I think she inadvertently sort of unleashes him onto the world, and then when the circle gets broken, that's he can come out. Maybe he kind of replaces the Doctor. He sort of swaps places with the Doctor, so the Doctor ends up wherever he was, and then he can kind of come out. Maybe it's something like that. I don't get the whole, was it a time loop and that's how she's managed to come back round, and I didn't get that. I did like everybody said, I did like the scene in the hospital where the lights stick there. That felt very much like something like The Conjuring or Insidious or something like that. I think as well, I really liked Gemma Redgrave in this one. I thought she was very good. I mean, well done to Rusty Davis for finally giving her a character besides being the Brigadier's daughter, because she's actually this and the giggle. Sure. She's been fantastic. Mm-hmm. Most of her other appearances, she's been a bit flat, and I think because there's nothing there, but he's actually done something with her. I think they should have had Gwen Cooper from Torchwood was in this one, and that's who. Just set it in Wales, leave it in Wales, and maybe she was off doing something. She was investigating this these things and have that as a wider plot. I think she would have been a better fit. She could have kind of been like the Doctor substitute for the story. But I mean, Millie Gibson was 18 when she filmed this, and I mean, you know, she's 18 years old and she can carry a 50-minute episode. Bizarrely, I think she looked older when she was supposed to be 25 and they gave her the long blonde hair. I think she actually looked older then than she did when she was 40, and I was thinking, blimey, I want whatever face cream that is that she's using, because you know, she doesn't look any different.
Okay, I'm taking my glasses off now, so please tell me that I look 20 years younger now, please.
Yes.
Maria's got the face cream from somewhere. Defo.
You know, so I think I enjoyed it, and I got that she had to be. I think the whole idea of the woman and what she's saying is that she has to keep Ruby on this path. If she doesn't get rid of her mum, well, then she won't go out and stop. She won't be on that date where she sees the advert where he's talking on the telly. She's like, oh, I remember when the Doctor told me about him. Right, I need to keep my eye on him. So I think I get the reason why. I just don't. It's that loop thing at the end where it was her all along. I just don't understand that bit. That was where it lost me completely.
Mm-hmm. It'll be. Yeah,
I think it'll be like Ghostlight. I mean, who the hell understands Ghostlight? Really? They didn't even understand it when they were making it. So I think maybe this will be like the modern version of Ghostlight, where it's like it's good, but we don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a bit clunky at the beginning. You know, when the Doctor mentioned, what is his name? I can't remember his name.
Roger William or Roger something or other.
Roger William. You know, when he kind of throws that in at the beginning, it felt a bit clunky actually, because it wasn't
just sort of comes out.
They weren't necessarily talking about that subject, and the Doctor just brings it up. And then he says, "Oh no, I can't tell you about that because it's in your future." And then she suddenly remembers when she's in that, I'll say, alternate timeline, that somehow she has to stop him. I mean, I didn't really get that. I mean, who said it was her job to actually stop him? I think she just took it upon herself and said she's going to save the world. I mean, that didn't make sense to me about why she would go off and do that. Because I don't think it didn't have any impact on the older Ruby, the waving character. So, although I suppose it was a way of getting rid of him, of using that older Ruby. But I still didn't get it, because I didn't understand what she would say to him to actually make him resign. You know, that's the other thing. I mean, why would people be running and screaming in fear? Her mum of all people, why would her mum be doing that? And the politician, sorry, Roger, I have to keep remembering his name because it's not something that sticks in my head. So I just found it really strange actually. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's good. I think the next time that Russell is at any kind of convention, Comic-Con, whatever, I think someone's question absolutely has to be, explain 73 yards to all of us as if we were 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Just explain it from your point, because in his head, he's probably like, what are you all stupid? Like, this is exactly what the deal is, and it's very simple to understand. But for the rest of us, mortals, it's like, come on, you're going to have to throw us a bone here, mate.
Yeah.
We're not quite, getting it. So, I completely agree with you guys. It was a complete brain just fizzer. It's like at the end of it, you were like, what? Because when I finished watching it, I was like, that was creepy as beep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what? Tennant's doctor was like, what? That was me for 5 minutes afterwards. So, I completely get that.
To be fair, I think Stephen Moffat does it better. I mean, when Stephen Moffat does all these timey-wimey kind of things, I mean, if you think about Heaven Sent, which is probably his his greatest episode. I would say, all of that kind of ties up. By the time you get to the end of it, you've understood exactly what's happened and all the imagery that you get and all the actions and everything. This just didn't make sense to me, and it worries me that Russell says this is his best script ever, because he's done much better. He's done much better stories.
Definitely.
I mean, Midnight was fantastic. Turn Left, which had Donna in an alternate timeline, was much better. So, it worries me. If he thinks this is the best, heaven help us for what's coming. Sorry, I didn't mean that to sound so negative, but it's just, he's done so much better.
Yes, I think we can all agree on that. He's done much better episodes. Has he done worse? Yeah, he's probably done worse, but he's definitely done better. Okie dokie. To wrap up then, yeah, that's true. Yeah, in this very series, that wasn't as good. Yeah, nobody's mentioned Sleep No More yet. So is it up there with...
It's got to be better than Sleep No More.
It has to be better.
Write Sleep No More?
Thank you.
He didn't write Sleep No More, did he? No, somebody else.
No, I'm just saying if we're going to say, a bit of a dud episode and whatever, it's not in the upper echelons of absolute complete... I can't say the words because this is a family-friendly podcast, but Tosh, you love that word.
I like that one.
Yeah. Right, let's wrap up then and get just a very quick thought from you guys on what do you think of our new TARDIS team then? Because we've spoken about obviously the episodes themselves and we've picked up a little bit on the performances from those guys. But Harry, what do you think to Ncuti and Millie Gibson as our new TARDIS team? You liking these guys?
I think they have excellent chemistry, and I think Ncuti is just an absolute gift to Doctor Who. He's a classically trained actor, and it shows. He's absolutely magnificent, and and I just love the fun and the energy that this Doctor has. The only criticism I think I have is he needs to stop crying so much, because when we eventually get to a really emotional moment that warrants the Doctor crying, it's going to be less impactful, because every now and then you just see a tear roll out. So cry a little bit less, Ncuti, please. And not there's anything wrong with you expressing your emotions, of course. And as for Millie, I think Millie's pretty decent. I mean, I don't want to get flack for saying this, but I think she's very Corro. Like, you can tell that she grew up on that show. And I feel like, she's not the greatest actor the show's ever had. But as someone who, is 18 years old, was their very first episode, like, you're leading this is your episode, she did the best job that she could, and she's doing really well. And, her and Ncuti fit really, really nicely together. I don't really have much to complain about with them two. I think that, even though the writing is very weak, in my opinion, I think they're making it very watchable. So, really like them.
Right. Cool. Jordan, what do you think to our new TARDIS team?
I really like them. I think Shooting was fantastic. I mean, he was fantastic right at the gate. In the end of the giggle, I think he outshone Davidson, he outshone Catherine Tate, he outshone everybody. I think he's kept that going. And I think sometimes Millie Gibson, the way she delivers some of her lines is a bit... But then so was Billie Piper in the first series. That was the first thing that she'd done acting-wise. And she is 18, or she was 18 when she filmed it, so there are one or two, and sometimes she can be a little bit too Mancunian, and I don't want to bring the North and South divide into it, but that doesn't necessarily translate down where I am. So I'm like, what did you just say? I didn't quite grasp what you just said. But otherwise, I think they work together fantastically. I think they're going to be one of those Doctor companion things where you can't really think of one without thinking of the other. Something like John Pertwee and Joe Grant. And Tom Baker and Sarah Jane. You know, you don't really think about one without thinking about the other. And I don't think you're going to think about Shooty Gatwa without Ruby Sunday. And the scripts have been up and down and they're sort of whatever, but I think they have literally done the best that they can do the whole way through. And I really like them. I think they're going to be a very, very popular. No matter how bad the stories might have been, or mainly Rusty Davis's stuff so far, I think they will be one of the most popular Doctor companion teams we've had in a while, I think.
Okay, so thumbs up for those two. And Maria, your thoughts then on the new Doctor and companion? What do you reckon?
I think the writing has been a bit up and down in this series. I'm not entirely convinced in their relationship. I can see that the actors are close. You can kind of tell that through the way they kind of behave and their physicality and lots of hugging and all of that. But I still feel, because we don't know who Ruby is. I think it partly is a detriment to the series, I think, because we don't know who she is, because the whole idea we were sold was that this was going to be a fun series. They were going to be travelling around having lots of fun. So I am enjoying them, but I'm not entirely convinced. I think sometimes Shooty's he's very scattergun sometimes, in the way he kind of delivers dialogue, and I find it sometimes a bit irritating. He hasn't had enough moments, I think, where he's just quiet and settled. I mean, there was something in The Devil's Cord that I kind of thought was really strange, where he kind of talked about Susan, and he was it was obviously he was living. He was talking about where Susan was living and where he kind of lived, and then he kind of laughed it off, and and sometimes I think tonally sometimes he doesn't come across as serious enough as the Doctor. But I mean, they are a good team. I mean, they do work well together. I mean, I can see the way that they're working. I'm just not entirely convinced yet. I need to see more, and because the scripts have been a bit up and down. I mean, I found it a bit strange that he kind of trusted Ruby so quickly. But he's testing her DNA, but then he's giving her a TARDIS key. So things like I think what it is because there's only 8 episodes in this series. I think they're compressing a lot of that natural relationship that would take time to build up, and it's just they're just compressing everything, and it's happening really quickly. So I think they're good together. I mean, as I say, I was really impressed with Millie when she had to when she had to hold 73 yards all on her own. So I know she's a good actress. But yeah, I'm waiting for more kind of moments between them. I need to see more of it, really.
That's fair enough. That's all good. Yeah, I can totally get that. But overall, some thumbs up for those guys, though. I think we can all agree that they are very good at the moment. We just need to, we'll see how the series progresses and what performances we get. I don't think there are any more Dr. Light episodes. I don't think, anyway. I think that was the only one.
I think the next one is another. Gary. I've read that it's meant to be a Dr. Light one for both.
Oh, is it?
For both Ruby and Dr. Light.
Oh, okay. Okay. So even if that's the case, then we've got another 3 eps after that. Yeah, to see how that stuff. But so far, so good. Okay. So on that mostly positive vibe, I think we will wrap there for the May Roundtable.
Susan Twist is in next week's episode as well. Spoilers.
Really? No way.
These guys chatting away. Doctor Who chat in the background. Yes, but Susan Twist, she's in all of them, I think. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for all of your thoughts and your reviews and your opinions on the series so far. A little bit up and down, I think, fair to say, in terms of story writing and episodes and whatnot. But for our TARDIS team shooting, really, I think pretty positive, which is good. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, make sure you're following the Big Blue Box in whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on, so you won't miss an episode when they go out every Friday, and also every month these roundtable episodes, which are always great fun and a great insight into these guys' views on Doctor Who and their big, clever, intelligent brains and all that stuff. So thank you very much. As always, you can check out everything on the website as well, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can check out the reviews and articles from these guys, and you can link off to all the socials and everything else. Harry, it's been very cool to chat as always. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, Gary. Always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you so much.
Jordan, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I do apologise to anybody listening if I decided, to love the peoples.
They're all good. They're all good.
I love these. So I love the North. It's fine.
Of course. Maria, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, I was talking to myself, obviously, but I was just saying it was a pleasure, and let's not leave it so long next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cool. Right. On that, I'm not going to do the Jeremy Clarkson thing. No, there's no bombshell. On that note, we'll see you next time. But until then, take care of yourselves and remember.
I just want to do it, Gary. I just want to do it.